Hello there and welcome back for my video. In this video we want to speak about my project called Project SocketChat, and in this video I will create the idle time. So when the user just watching the chat message here, you can see if we make a message here so you will be disconnected, because in the previous video we want creating the disconnect after 5 minutes if the idle time is going away. So if something is going wrong and the system doesn't disconnect you correct, then the idle time will disconnect you after 5 minutes. So in this video I will keep the user alive. So if it's just have the browser open, then the user's idle time will be fixed here. So let's beginning, and in this video you will learn about the plugin for the nodes called Axios. It's the REST, so you can transport the data from the browser to the server, and then we will continue learning the Flask. So in the Flask we will want to create the REST API. It's response by JSON. So let's go ahead. The first one we want to go in for is the socket client here, you can see. So let's scrolling down, because we want to build something down here, and let's minimize this message. No, sorry. Let's scrolling down for the socket join rule, and what we want to build here is the ping service. We want the function ping service, and then we want the watcher down here to listen here. The watch, and then we want to listen, because we want the ping service should have the user data, and the user data can be a little delayed, depends on how the server wants to respond. So if we take the user data in before we on mount or on create, then you can hit the user null issue. So we want to watch on the user, and we want to create a handler here, and then we want to deep, because we have data inside the user. So every time the user responds, the user data here want to change, then we want to watch the handler here, and we want to call the ping service. And that's basically the first part of the scope we want here. And then we want to define a timeout. So let's create a ping timeout here. We can call it null, and then inside our ping service, to be sure, then we say this user is different from null, and then we say clear timeout, this ping timeout, and we want to be sure, so we want to build here timeout, this ping timeout, and this ping timeout is equal to set timeout. And what we want here is a function, and we say it should be run every second here. So let's test this one. Test my timeout. Going for the console here, and you can see test timeout, and it's not want to repeat yet. So what we want to do, it's going back for the client, and we want to call this ping service again. So we want to say, when you have running the ping service, clear the timeout, because if something is going wrong and you spawn, let's say 10 timeouts, then you will create this script 10 times, and we don't interested in this. So we want to be sure every time before we create a new timeout, just clear the previous timeout to stop something. And then we set the timeout, and in the bottom of the timeout function we want to run the timeout one more time, because we want this timeout is first running after 1 second. Let's see it in the browser. Now you can see here ping timeout, and ping timeout is running again and again and again. So that's working. Let's jumping back and create the user state. We want to create a user file so we can handle everything about the user. So let's creating the user file in the JavaScript folder here by creating the new file, JavaScript, in the folder JavaScript with the file user.js. Inside here we want to say the model exports, and what we want here is a ping function, and then we want to take the user data inside. And in the first time we first want to say the log user ping service run. Let's going back for the app view file, and we're going a little bit up here, and then we make the const called users, and then we want to call require, and then assets, and JavaScript, and user. Then we can connect the user ping service down here and say every time we want the ping service, then we want to run it here, ping, and we want the user data inside here. Whoops. And then going back and say user ping service running and user data here, something like that. That's going back for the browser here, and you can see the ping, and we have the user data from the user here. So everything running smooth right now. Now we need to connect the ping service to our Flask API. So let's going for the server in the Python here, and then we need to create something before. Let's close it down here, and you need to say pip install, and we need a flask cross. And why we install this, I already have it right now, but you need to install it. And why we want to install this, it's because if you don't do this, we get in some error because we're working between two different server URL. The first one is port 8080, and the second one is the server. It's called 2345, I think. Let's going down and see. Yeah, 2345 is the port number, and it's will be registered like different domains, and then the browser automatically want to decline all the requests between. So we need this. So let's going up here and make the import here from flask cross import cross, and we want to response back in JSON, so we need the JSON file, and then we want to build a cross here. Here the cross should be app, and then the resources should be here with all that's meaning the path, and then every subdomains, and then we want to build it inside here and say origin, and we want to accept all domains. That should be what we need. You can compact it if you want, but I like when it's look like readable here. So that's how we should be. Let's create the function now. When we want to build the function, we need to say app and then route. And what is we want to route is the /ping. That's what we want right now. And then we call the function for ping service. and let's just response JSON file and something hello world. That's what we want right now, and we need a space more here. And then I'm going for postman, and then we can send the ping. Let's see about this reacting here. We forgot to open the application, so let's do it again. And now you can see it's the function response by ping, and if we do this, it will not respond, so we have access to the function here. That's perfect. Let's go in here for the Mongo database. I will go down here, and I will just copy this because we need it. And then we need to build a function by user, so going inside the users here and going down, and then we want to build here the function. We want to call it diff update idle time, and then the connection should be none and the request should be none. And I will go back for the app here, and what I want to do now is just say if users idle time, the connection, it's equal to Mongo and the request is equal to request. If it's returned true, then we want to say response data is equal to status okay, and then we want to say code is equal to 200, else we want to response error, because then we don't find the user. That's what the point is now. Oops. And basically just return this, and then we want to close the client here. Let's going back for the user one more time, and we have the function here. And what we want to do now, let's see the database here. You can see this, I hope, but what we want is the last activity should be updated, and then I will add one more called last idlet, because then we can use the last activity when something happened on the user, like when you send a message, when you're staying idle, when you move between the rooms, and yeah, something like that. And then we can define a timestamp for every single function the user do, so we can see how much time people spend in different cases. So let's going back here and say the result should be the connection and should be online users, and we want to update this, update a single one. And what we want here is we only want to say the ID should be object ID. We don't have that. I will import it just a minute. And then we want the request, and we want the get here. We will send the ID from the ping service in a minute, but for now we just use this and ID, and we will be sure this one. And what we build here is to be sure the user ID and the session ID. The session ID is the user ID, and the ID is the ID from the user is creating in Mongo. If those two is find something and we update it, then we can respond something. And then we want to say set, and what should be setting here? It will coming back. So let's import the importing the object ID here in the top. I will go up here and say from basin object ID import object ID, and then we are ready here down to scrolling down again, and it's not having error anymore. And then we want to set the last activity add, and date time UTC now. I love to have it in UTC now because then it doesn't matter where in the world you are, and then I know exactly which time zone the user have updating the time. And then last idle add, and then date time UTC now. And that's printing out what's happening here in the result. Update the result, and then result modified count. If the modified count here is bigger than 0, return true, else return false. Then we can going back here to the app and see we have it here idle and everything is okay. So the next thing we want to do now is just to it's testing this. It should be an error now, and we have a big error here, so that's fine. We can just say here ID is test and user ID is demo, and we're still getting the error, so something is wrong here. Let's go in for the user. Yeah, I want to have the user down here. That's a little bit weird. Backing for this, and still have the error model library users has no attribute. Of course it have, because we have the import users here. So let's investigate what's happening and why it's not working. Let's see the users one more. Okay, you can see the change room, and then we have to update. Is one level too deep, so let's put it inside here and one more here. Then it should working perfect. And yes, we still have the issue because we can't be the object ID, and that's fine. It's no big deal right now. Of course we need to put the unit test on all the project later, but I don't want it right now, so let's just continue. Let's jumping back for the client here, and then we want to install one library here, say npm install Axios. This is the rest I speak about. We need this to continue the ping service. And let's going inside here the ping service, and let's running the server. And of course inside here we want to set the const Axios is equal to the crying Axios, and then we can using the Axios downs here return Axios get, and then we need the URL, and now we'll just use a static here 2345 and then the ping. We will later in the future change this so it will be dynamic based on a configuration file on the environment file, but for now that's fine. And then we go into configuration, the params, and in the params we need the ID, and then we need the user ID, and then we have the response, and then we have the catch. If something is going wrong, we're going disconnect or something like that. That's fine. I'll remove this for now. and if it's okay, we want to return the status. Okay, and then we need the code, say 200, and return here should be status error, and then the code should be 501. It's a server error probably. And we expect always when we coming down inside here, because we have the change before, but we expect everything here is fine. So I'll say the ID, the ID here should be the object ID, and the user should be the user ID here. And then let's going back for the application here and see what's happening. I think that's how it's working. So let's reloading here. Yeah, the ping timeout, and let's going and say what's happening. Let's remove all the users. You can say this is the user. Now we have the last activity, and then we have the idle time. I'll just remove all of those users here. And you can see now it's updating 855 86. So now it's working, and that's how it's working, and I can reload and see we only have one user here. So thank you so much for watching my videos here about how we can have the ping service up and running. And of course my code can be downloaded free on my GitHub profile. I hope you want to follow my GitHub, and then you can get more videos. And of course I hope you give this video a like, and if you want you can subscribe my channel in the right corner below in the ding. And if you have any questions about this video, or you have ideas about this video and the next video or something like that, then make a comment below and I'll try to answer them as fast as possible as I can do it. And then give it a like and share it with your friends. And thank you so much, and I hope you want to subscribe my channel to get more videos from me. Hope to see you next time, and take care. Thank you. Bye.